Wow, Professor Bacon, that was incredible. Thanks for letting me sit here next to you today and listen to you play and to tape this very special episode of our podcast, The Next 150. So Rams, I'm here today with Professor Joel Bacon, who's a professor of music here at CSU, and we get to do our podcast on location in front of this amazing organ that we have in the organ recital hall at the CSU University Center for the Arts, which is a really special room. For those of you who are only listening, I'll describe the room a bit. This is actually a refurbished high school auditorium that has now become our famous organ recital hall. But it doesn't look like a high school auditorium. It's very beautiful with a gorgeous balcony and these beautiful big windows up here. And it's really just a privilege to be here today and to sit with you to talk a little bit more about your work and to get a little bit of an insight into what we might hear at some of your upcoming performances.
Thank you so much for coming over.
So Joel, tell us a little bit about your role, first of all, with CSU, what you teach and what you do here at CSU.
Sure. So I've been at CSU for 19 years now, and I'm a professor of music. The organ is my instrument, clearly. I also teach some harpsichord, a little piano over the years. I teach music history courses with a specialty in church music, liturgical music. Yeah. I also teach some courses in Catholic studies as part of the kind of religious studies course offerings that we have at CSU.
Yeah, so you're actually, you hold 2 endowed chairs.
That's right.
In these areas, I believe that you're the first ever endowed chair in the College of Liberal Arts.
Yes,
so,
yes I am.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the 2 chairs because they're quite different. So it's interesting to me that you hold both. One is the Stuart and Sharon Golden Chair in Organ and Liturgical Studies.
That's correct.
And the second one is Father Don Willett, Chair of Catholic Studies.
Yes.
So explain to me a little bit how that works, wearing those 2 different hats and what you teach in both of those areas.
Right. So, they're obviously related subjects. Religion, religious music. The organ has a lot of religious music in its repertoire. As the chair of organ and liturgical studies, I teach organ students individual lessons. And I also teach coursework on, the areas of the classical music repertoire that came out of the church or have to do with church music. So these are courses that might also appeal not only to organists, but, for example, choral music students who have a lot of choral pieces that clearly came out of religious tradition. In Catholic studies, this is new. This is actually the newest endowed chair in liberal arts.
Okay.
And I've been doing that for a year now. And in that position, I get to teach a course in Catholic studies. So this is something that we're still developing, trying to figure out a bit, but I've loved it so far. I've been teaching interdisciplinary liberal arts seminars. For example, the course I'm teaching this semester is on Christian monasticism. So monks and nuns through the ages.
I want to take that course.
More or less. Yeah, in some ways the topics overlap a bit. I play organs in Catholic churches and I play Catholic kind of music, but I'm really interested in Gregorian chant. But Catholic studies is more than that. That's more. It's a broader scope.
So you are the person who's the intersection of really all of these different studies, which is fascinating that you're able to weave that through both what you teach and what you practice. Right. So we talked a bit about your performance. So you perform not just here at the UCA, but you perform around the region as well. What does that typically look like for you?
I have all kinds of wonderful opportunities to play. Sometimes it means traveling, to a different part of the country or internationally to play a specific organ. Recently, I played the first recital on a new organ in Timnath.
Oh,
for
really?
example. The church was so excited And it was really lovely to get to show them their instrument from kind of a, a more concert kind of perspective. Yeah, I've loved being a concert organist. It's brought me to some really unusual places and historic instruments. I also play piano. I love piano. But Steinways are all kind of alike in a way. They have 88 keys. They all kind of look the same. They're black, same way. Organs are all totally different. And this organ is the only organ like it in the world. And so to get to go someplace and learn an instrument and meet an instrument and then make music with that instrument for people is really special.
Let's talk about this instrument for just a minute,
Sure.
since you brought it up, this particular organ and its backstory and how it came to live in the organ recital hall at the UCA.
Well, it was originally built for what is now the Tilt building on the Oval. That was the old music building. In 1968, and it lived there successfully for many years. It was a smaller auditorium, a really intimate hall to play in. It was wonderful. But it was actually about 19 years ago. It was when I came. One of the first things I was told I was going to do was supervise the moving of this world-famous historic instrument.
I imagine you did not sign up for that
Well,
when you took the job.
Well, I did have to get creative for a year trying to find other organs to teach students on. But and I learned so much about how this organ was originally built, because there are over 2,000 pipes in this instrument.
2,000.
When people come here, they see the beautiful metal pipes in the facade, and sometimes if they get bored, they might count the number. I think somebody did once and told me at the end of a concert. But there are so many more pipes you can't see, ranging in height from 16 feet to just a quarter of an inch. And so to take care of those, to pack those up, to clean them, so we refurbished the organ at the time. And then this room in the University Center for the Arts was kind of redesigned, knowing that this organ would end up being kind of the focal point of the room. And we also, of course, wanted to make sure that the acoustics of the room made this instrument speak correctly as it was originally built. And it turned out far better than I could have hoped for. It was really successful.
It is a spectacular space for the organ. Is that typical for organs, that number of pipes, this type of pipe that we have here, or is this different?
This is a rather large organ, but as I said, organs are all so very different. There are probably a couple other organs in town about this size. It's really the quality of this instrument and its place in the history of organ building that mark it as special.
Well, I've had the great privilege of listening to you play many times and attending your performances here in the Organ Recital Hall. It's some of the most spectacular performances I've ever seen in my life, really, to watch you play. We're so grateful as a community that you're here at CSU with your talent and what you do. And the community in Fort Collins has really embraced you and this organ recital hall and the performances that you put on. I'll come back to that in a minute, but I have to ask you, how did you get started in organ music as a young person?
Yeah, I didn't take my first organ lessons until I was a freshman in college.
No kidding.
So I had played piano all of my life, and just never had thought of that as a profession. Like, I didn't know any professional musicians.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could, make a living doing music. And I went to college and studied math. And my freshman year, I was attending music concerts because I love music so much. Right? And I heard the university organist play a concert, and I don't know, something in me just lit up, And I went and signed up for lessons, and I ended up practicing more organ than I ended up studying math. So But it's hard. Learning the organ it's if you play piano well, you can do a lot with the keys, but you have to learn all the feet, right? Organists play with both their feet.
Yeah, it's astounding to watch, to be honest. And I've seen you play entire, complicated, beautiful pieces with nothing but your feet, and my jaw's on the floor when I see you do that. Maybe you can demonstrate a little bit of that today, or tell us something
Sure.
that you're working on right now.
Oh, okay. Well, I can play a little of something I'm working on right now. This is honestly just exactly what I was practicing this afternoon. So it's not
Exciting.
performance ready, but it's a song, a French art song from the early 20th century by Reynaldo Hahn called Chloris. And classical singers know this song. It's a very beautiful song. And I always thought for some reason it would make a wonderful organ piece. So I've been kind of experimenting with how to maybe take this very expressive lyric love song and turn it into an organ piece.
So is this something that you do normally? You listen for songs, you listen for these, and translate it into your mind on how it will come out as an organ piece?
Sometimes there are classic organ pieces I just want to play, pieces other organists know and play. But lately I like letting myself be inspired. So if there's a kind of music and it it's a little outside of normal for organists, maybe that's okay. Maybe that's something that I'm meant to explore.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm excited.
So here's just the opening of Chloris.
Okay. Beautiful. You just started learning that today. This is what it sounds like. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've played this actually as a pianist. I played this with one of our voice professors on a recital in Germany several years ago. So
maybe we'll get to hear it at one of your concerts this year.
I hope so. Not for Halloween. We have other things for Halloween.
Well, let's talk about Halloween for a minute.
Okay. We must. Yes.
I mentioned a minute ago how I really feel like not just the CSU community, but Fort Collins, maybe even Northern Colorado community, have learned to love the organ because of you and because of this beautiful instrument, University Center for the Arts and your talent. When you have concerts here, it's full and it's wonderful, but probably no more so than on Halloween. And your Halloween extravaganza has really become an amazing tradition in Fort Collins. So let's talk about that a little bit. Where did the inspiration for it come originally? And for those who may not know, on Halloween, Joel and his students perform this amazing Halloween organ extravaganza that is, I think, the most wonderful thing you can do on Halloween. So how did it get started?
Well, so obviously the organ is associated with Halloween, big, spooky, scary, gothic kind of sounds. And, the idea is not original to me. Other places do Halloween concerts. But CSU was not doing one when I came. And I said, oh, I think that would be fun. And
you had no idea what you were getting into.
I had no idea. And, honestly, the students, that first Halloween in the Tilt building, it was so special. Like I had a student from Hong Kong. I remember like having to explain, it's Halloween. We're all going to wear costumes. You're going to play. It's
going to be great.
I remember going to the grocery store and getting a witch's hat for her and a broom so that she would have a costume. But these students played their hearts out, and so many people came. We actually had to turn people away at the door because there wasn't room in the building for all of the people that showed up.
Yeah.
And it's just been wonderful. I mean, in some ways, I love that I get to show a different side of the organ. I love playing in churches. I love playing, serious moments. Weddings, funerals. There's a lot of important things I get to do as an organist. But letting our hair down a bit and showing a different side of the instrument is really important to me too.
It's almost like a gateway event into the rest of the UCA events, because it's so much fun, and I know that you live stream it as well, so people who are home giving away candy can be also paying attention to what's happening and listening to the music. Right. Anything you want to disclose about what's coming up for this year?
We usually keep our themes top secret.
Oh, okay. But, all right, that's fair enough, but a good tip for Rams listening, they need to get their tickets early because it sells out, and there are multiple performances, but it sells out, and I'm already committed, so I will be there. I can't wait.
Yeah.
So.
One thing I want to add about it, it's over the years, it's been really nice to have the partnership with theater as well. We're one department here at CSU, music, theater, and dance. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the organ students that perform. We have a student doing lighting for the show. We have a student that does projection for the show. I had a production meeting with theater just the other day, and they were telling me about costumes and props. And so it's drawn a lot of other students in, and it's great collaboration here in our department.
That's wonderful. I mean, we put on so many great productions here at the UCA, the theater productions and dance productions, and all student run. The experience they get here is just amazing. It's a really special part of CSU. Yeah. So, all right, so no secrets. We'll have to come and see it.
I'll tell you after the cameras are off.
See it in person. All right, that's fair enough. I do want to get back to playing a little bit, but this podcast is called The Next 150 because it is looking at CSU's history up to this point and looking ahead. And I ask every guest that I chat with what advice they might have for today's CSU students. And you've taught a lot of students in a lot of classes over time, and just want to pick your brain a little bit about advice for today's students, whether or not they're coming into music, theater, and dance, but just arriving on our campus. It's fall semester. We've got many thousands of new students here for the first time. Advice for them as they start their journey at CSU.
Oh, actually, when you asked me how I started organ, I told you that I went to an organ concert, and that wasn't anything required for my degree. But that's something I would encourage students to do, is to go to events, go to lectures, go to concerts, go to things that you don't have to go to, that you don't even know that you might be interested in.
Right. Because
I didn't know I was going to be interested in it, and it totally transformed my life. And university is a special place to do that.
And we're all grateful that the university that you attended had that great organ performance that inspired you to be here today.
And I know you believe in this too, because I see you everywhere.
Yeah, well, I do encourage the students to go to the things that not only do they maybe not know about, things that they think they won't like, or even speakers they think they're going to disagree with. go to those. Don't just go to the
Sure.
things that you know and that you think you're going to agree with. And so I think that's great advice. And especially at CSU, we have so many amazing performances that are so inspiring, not just to our students, but our whole Fort Collins community. Yeah, so thank you for that. All right, so I think we're gonna get another piece from you.
Sure.
So would love to listen to whatever you want to play for us today.
You want a little more Halloween music?
I'm in the Halloween mood and I'm excited for the Extravaganza, so I say yes. But wait, before we do that, I just learned something very interesting about your organ shoes.
Yes.
I didn't know that there were special organ shoes, but it makes complete sense because it is such a full body effort to play the organ. Tell me just a little bit about how you prepare, and do you train specially in addition to wearing those shoes to be able to do what you do?
For those who may not be able to see us listening to this podcast, there are 32 keys on an organ pedal board. And you play them mostly with your toes, but you can also play with your heels. You can play whole chords. You can play music. They often play the lowest notes on the organ. These are really the lowest pipes. I don't even know if that'll pick up on the microphone so well. I wear special shoes with thin soles so that I can feel the pipes a little better. And the heels have suede leather on them instead of, kind of rubber, so that they don't grip. They're also lightweight. They're just, after 4 hours of practicing, you don't want to be playing in hiking boots. As far as training, I think you do a lot of the same things you do on piano. You learn scales, you play little exercises, you practice.
There's so many pieces and parts to what you do. Help educate us just a little bit before you play your next piece on what these different things are called.
Right, okay, so there are knobs sticking out the side of the organ, and you have keys. This organ has 3 keyboards on top of each other, and nothing actually plays until you draw one of the knobs, one of the stops. And that engages 1 pipe per key. So there are 56 pipes that are controlled by this 1 knob. And these kind of sound like a flute. But some other pipes sound more like trumpets. Some pipes are pitched really low. And some are pitched really high. And it's this combination. That's part of the art of playing the organ is you're selecting the different kinds of sounds and different combinations to bring out different timbres and colors.
And on the feet down here, these pedals, these are 2 different types of pedals that you're playing.
These buttons in general change the stops quickly. You can program them so that I'm not trying to play the organ and also change the stops. And so there are buttons everywhere that let me do that, so that I don't have to kind of stop in the moment of my playing and reach on the side and grab stops. When I was a student in Vienna, a lot of older European organs don't have this. And so I'd have to enlist my fellow students to stand on either side of me while I played. And I'd write in my music where they were supposed to draw the knobs, and I'd nod and yeah.
It's quite intimidating of an instrument to approach from someone who's very interested in the organ, but how do you even start? So I'm just curious as a professor, how you take a student who's maybe quite good at piano and start to translate that into all of this that goes into playing the organ.
It's one of the things I enjoy doing most. I think for me, this instrument is a lot about wonder, right? Like the immensity of the sound or the, just how it works because it's so complicated. The history of it seems so complicated. And so communicating that to students, getting them to wonder what all of these things do, is something that just brings a lot of joy to what I do. But it does make organ lessons long, I have to say. You have to take a couple minutes to show them how to turn all these instruments on,
Yeah, like I said, it's quite intimidating to even approach it. Well, as magnificent as this instrument is and this room, I imagine that you've played in some truly spectacular cathedrals and other places around the world. Maybe tell us one or two places that are particularly magnificent to play.
I was remembering recently the Hofkirche in Innsbruck, the royal church. And it's an instrument from the 1500s. And I love really old organ music like that. And I had gone there to play for the organist there and to work with him on some early music. And I told him, I said, I love this instrument so much, I would just love to, I could stay here all night. And he said, why don't you? And he gave me the key to the church. And this Gothic church, and what was really special, there are these statues in the church, these that line the center aisle, and the only lights that he left on, there weren't any lights that he left on except at the organ, but there were these flickering votive candles, in the side chapels, and these, casting shadows on these statues, and I love all of these old churches at night. I think that's one of my favorite things about being an organist is being in a church alone at night.
But you still have an audience, like a very interesting audience listening to you play.
So
amazing. Well, what are you going to play for us?
I think I might as well just play the quintessential Halloween piece for you. This is Johann Sebastian Bach's Toccata in D minor.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Joel, for spending time with us today and allowing us to broadcast the Next 150 podcast here at the Organ Recital Hall. And just thank you for being part of our CSU community. What you bring to CSU is just truly exceptional, and we're also grateful that you're here and that you teach what you teach at CSU and that you perform for all of us to enjoy. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening. I'm Amy Parsons, president of Colorado State University, and you're listening to CSU's The Next 150, where we explore what comes next for CSU by chatting with change makers who are already leading the charge and shaping our next 150 years. I'm gathering their very best advice for today's CSU students. Stay tuned to wherever you get podcasts for our next outstanding conversation. Go Rams!